Welcome back into Clay and Buck. Our friend Andy McCarthy joins us now. He is a former federal prosecutor of over 20 years, Southern District of New York, Fox News contributor, writes over at National Review and at foxnews.com. Andy, I just want you to lay it out for everybody. I've been getting a lot of emails because we talked about earlier that you were going to come on the show. And already we're getting emails, people saying, you got to ask him, what are they going to do with the sentencing in September? This is for the New York City business records case presided over by Judge Mershon. You've written a piece. I'll let the punchline go to you on this one, Andy. But first, what's going to happen here? Like, how does this process play out?
Well, it's an unusual process, Buck, because remember, it was supposed to play out on July 11th, on the eve of the Republican convention. And I was disturbed by the timing even back then, which, it's since been postponed, by the fact that they would choose the eve of the convention to make what I think is yet another political point in a case that's really been all about politics. Let's remember, nobody who wasn't Donald Trump would ever have been prosecuted in this nonsense case. And, the technical charge in the case is falsification of business records, but the district attorney's office, Alvin Bragg, with the assistance of the judge, made it into a case of conspiracy to steal the 2016 election, which worked, by the way. So, Bragg, for all their rhetoric on the Democratic side, Bragg is the biggest election denier in the country. I used to think that was supposed to be a bad thing to be, but that's the way it is. So it's clear to me that they're trying to make a political point out of this. And obviously the most powerful political point that they can make in a sentencing that's now scheduled for September 18th, which, to remind people, is 2 days after early voting begins in Pennsylvania. So we're already now, we're going to do this when the voting process for the November election is underway. I think that the point here is for the Democrats to be able to argue that Trump is a convicted felon who's facing a stiff prison sentence. And I think the incentive for Judge Mershon to impose a stiff prison sentence is perversely increased by the fact that I think Trump is sure to get bail pending appeal. That is, Mershon knows that whatever he pronounces is not real because it's not actually going to happen. The former president is not going to go into jail. He's going to be on appeal. It's going to take a couple of years to work out this case. But in the meantime, they'll be able to make an argument in the final 6 to 8 weeks of the campaign stretch run that the former president is a multiply convicted felon who's looking at a prison sentence. I think that's what they want to accomplish.
So just so we can, just so we're all on the same page. And by the way, Andy's piece up at Fox News is prepare for Trump to be sentenced to prison on September 18th. So you're not mincing words here, Andy. It would be, if assuming your analysis is correct, Judge Mershon would say, I think that you should get under the statutes, blah blah, judge talk, 18 months at Rikers Island. Trump doesn't get transferred into custody though, because there's an immediate appeal. Like, how does that, you know what I'm saying? How does that part of it work? How does he know that he doesn't actually get sent to, is that Judge Mershon's call that he's out pending appeal right away?
Yeah, my understanding, Buck, is that New York works a little bit different than the federal system does. In the federal system, the judge who imposes sentence can grant bail pending appeal, and there's a federal statute that applies where it lays out a test for what you have to show in order to get bail pending appeal. The state system's a little bit different because the appellate court frequently is the one that grants bail pending appeal. But in New York, it's almost an automatic that you get bail pending appeal, in particular if it's a case like this one, which is a nonviolent crime. Let's remember, in Bragg's jurisdiction, people don't get prosecuted for stuff like this. People sometimes don't get prosecuted even for violent crimes because of the way that New York weirdly defines violent crimes that I think you and I if we were on the receiving end of some of the uses of force that they think are nonviolent crimes, we might beg to differ. But it's virtually an automatic that he's going to get bail pending appeal. And if the judge did something crazy like tried to put him in immediately, I think they'd get an instant appeal and he'd be allowed to stay out pending appeal. So I don't think the Democrats are going to, I don't think the judge is going to fight that. I don't think Bragg is going to fight that. What they want is the campaign rhetoric. They don't really expect that Trump's actually going to be in a prison cell.
Well, can I ask you to take it a few steps? I totally agree, and I think everyone listening agrees as well that they want to be able to just hammer Trump in the final stretch of the election as a criminal, and Kamala's the prosecutor, and she'll prosecute the case against Trump. You know, we all know how this is going to go. But in terms of what happens, let's just say Trump loses. I mean, which is not going to happen, Andy. I'm assuring everybody Trump's going to win this thing. But let's just say Trump loses for the purposes of discussion. Are you entirely confident that the New York State Court of Appeals is going to step in a major way and help Trump out on this? Because to me, it's like, well, if the New York City judge at the lower level was this bad, why do we think the appeals judges would be much better? I'm just wondering what your take is on that.
My take, Buck, is first of all, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take probably 2 to 3 years just because it's a very slow system. And what people should know about the New York system is it is highly, highly political, but more political the lower down you are in the system. So that as you go up to the appellate division and the Court of Appeals, you actually get some real judges who actually are interested in doing the job of law enforcement. Yeah. And as a result, for example, Harvey Weinstein, what did it take, 3 years between the time he got tried and the time he got sentenced? But the High Court in New York actually threw out the convictions of Harvey Weinstein, which, he's comparable to Trump in the degree of demagoguery that surrounded that prosecution. But it was it was objectively, if you could get past what you thought of Harvey Weinstein, it was an objectively unjust, awful case, and they came out to the right result. And if you look, Buck, even in the civil case against Trump, the other travesty that was brought by Tish James, the appellate division reversed Judge Engoron a number of times on a number of things, including most recently slashing the bond that Trump had to post in order to continue to prosecute the appeal without them being able to seize his property. So I do think the judging gets better as you go up in the system, and that's important because there's a slew of reversible error in this case. And frankly, if Judge Merchan wanted to be a real judge, the case should be thrown out. The guilty verdict should be thrown out because the Supreme Court in the immunity case said that when you're dealing with official acts of the president, it's not just that you can't prosecute an official act as if it was a crime in and of itself. What the court said is you can't even use it as evidence to prove acts or crimes that aren't based on official acts. And here, the DA obviously offered a lot of evidence of acts that Trump took as president and while president. They can't say they're not official acts. The DA's office actually put on as witnesses 2 of Trump's White House staff, and they can't say that was unimportant testimony because in summation, the prosecutors said it was devastating testimony. So I think just on the basis of that, he should have vacated the guilty verdicts, but he should have done a lot of things under the law that he didn't do. And I think the reason for that is this is a political exercise, not a legal one.
He also is conflicted himself, right? He give money to the Biden campaign, and also has a daughter who's a Democrat activist who's making more money now than ever before. I mean, he should have recused himself.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that because there's a couple of things about that really need to be pushed back on. One is whenever he gets called on this, he waves around this advisory opinion that he got from some judicial ethics panel in New York that said that his campaign contributions were negligible in terms of the low dollar amount, and therefore it was too de minimis to disqualify him. I would point out 2 things on this, which I really wish we'd hear more of from the Trump camp. One is when someone makes a small dollar amount, you're not a contribution. You're not making that contribution in order to help the candidate win, right? A $15 contribution is not
right.
going to help.
You're doing it for yourself to show what team you're on.
Exactly, and that's, to me, in many ways, that's just as important when you're talking about a judge, especially, as giving a big contribution. The other thing is just and Hewitt has been great writing about this. It's just flatly a violation of New York law. Under New York judicial ethics law, they're not allowed to give campaign contributions. They're not supposed to do it. He apparently, Merchon, got reprimanded for that. There's a letter about it, but he won't release it. So I think that's to me, that should be a very big deal. And as you point out, Lauren Merchon, the judge's daughter, is not only a progressive political operative who does lucrative campaign work for top Democrats who define themselves by their opposition to Trump. Her number one client out in California is Kamala Harris. So, it's hard to.
And this is all also under I know what some libs and some of the talking heads out there would say to this, but it only has to look bad, right? It's the appearance
Correct.
of impropriety. It's not actually, it's not the judge is taking bribes. I don't think the judge can be honest because of these conflicts.
Right. And the reason for that, Buck, is very obvious. The legitimacy of the outcomes of the justice system depend on the perception of people that the system is on the up and up. So even if a judge is absolutely confident that he could be fair and objective, and I'm sure in his own mind, Merchon believes this, even though it seems clear to me that he's a very political actor. It doesn't matter whether he actually did do things that a conflicted person would do. All that matters is that there's enough evidence there to make people wonder whether this is all legitimate or not, whether he's really an objective jurist or not. And if you look at the decisions that were made in this prosecution, the judicial decisions from the pretrial stage through to the point where we're at now, all of the bad decisions, and there are many, all went in one direction.
Well, it's like the media's lies about Trump. Whenever they get something wrong, it's really bad for Trump, right? It's never a story they have to retract. They're like, Trump's a great guy, actually. Who knew?
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
Yeah, you could play the odds on this and know exactly what's going on. So, Andy, you think he's going? I think you're probably right, given the fact that he gets to sentence him without actually incarcerating him. If that's true, I can't, because otherwise, if he gives him probation, it's like, why'd you bring this case in the first place?
Yeah,
right.
And let's remember, Buck, they pitched this as theft of the most important job on the planet, the most consequential political position in the country. In the minds of the people who are engaged in this, which would be Merchon and Bragg's office, this is not a penny ante falsification of business records case. This is Trump conspired to steal the presidency, and he achieved it.
Have you ever seen at a high level of public interest, Andy, a trial like this that is just such a sham? I mean, is this the most absurd criminal justice proceeding at this kind of level of public scrutiny that you've ever seen? Have you ever seen anything worse?
Yeah, yes, no, I've never seen anything worse. And as you know, Buck, I'm hardly in the tank for Trump, but the only thing that I could say that's even comparable is the civil case against Trump. And look,
so the two worst cases, the two biggest miscarriages of justice from the justice system at this level you've ever seen in terms of the process and the abuse would be against Trump. That's astonishing. Guys, clayandbuck.com. Andy's piece is linked up there. Go read it. Andy McCarthy, the one and only Andy. Thanks for making the time for us today.
Thank you, Buck.
Appreciate it. Hunting season is rolling in. As you get ready to explore the great outdoors, look no further than Bear Creek Arsenal for your next firearm. With calibers as rare as the versatile 6mm and the power-packing punch of the 30-06, the innovative people working at Bear Creek Arsenal have perfected the balance of outstanding gunsmithing and affordable products. Whether you're hunting small game or deer, they have all the firepower you'll ever need. Guys, I go to the range with Bear Creek Arsenal guns now every time I go. They're such high quality. Everything, the craftsmanship, the sturdiness, the feel, the accuracy is world class, and the prices you just cannot beat the value proposition. So if you want craftsmanship, accuracy, and the best price you can get, Bear Creek Arsenal should be your number one firearms manufacturer. And remember, you can save when you use my name Buck as a promo code at bearcreekarsenal.com. Go to bearcreekarsenal.com, use that promo code Buck.